Thank you.
I get to be there.
We'll see you there then. Hopefully, they're putting freezing water bottles apparently and putting them under the seats, but I don't know for everybody or just for some people, but
Okay.
Woody, I share your wilting. Today was our twins' Freedom Trail chaperoning trip for us. So
oh,
we traversed the lovely Freedom Trail, and it was very hot.
I'll bet it was hot.
We had a retired DS history teacher, Mr. Hickey, who just left this year. So he was wonderful. He had so many wonderful details to share. And yeah, it was nice to be shepherded through the day by him.
He was,
I love that field trip.
yeah, he was my son's favorite teacher. I can thank Mr. Hickey for encouraging my son to actually study in one class.
He was very spirited, very youthful for
Yeah, he's a really nice man.
teaching a tough subject and just had a lot of enthusiasm to share with us. So it was very nice.
Did you go to the Scooper Bowl?
Uh, we did not. We did not do that today. There were parts that were modified. There were probably, I've had to guess, 200 other schools also taking part in the Freedom Trail today. So it was a very congested, busy event. But
I'm
we saw all
outside my
major,
window.
major points. It was great.
Well, we have a quorum, so why don't we start? Because I'm really interested in keeping this short. So, so Marty,
Here.
Nina,
Here.
Mish,
Here.
Sarah,
Here.
and Simone,
Here.
and I'm here. Great. So we have a relatively, excuse me, relatively brief agenda, but I do want to discuss these things, and then we will probably we'll plan on meeting. I think it's June 25th as a meeting to uh, vote on reserve fund transfers. So hopefully that'll be relatively quick as well, although I've been assured there are going to be some requests, so we'll distribute the request, the paperwork in advance, and then hopefully the voting can be relatively short. So I just wanted to kind of update on the process of voting for chair and vice chair. I think we agreed that we would try and do this before the end of the fiscal year. So far, I've received uh, nominations for a chair for myself and chair for the vice chair. Mish and Simone were both nominated, but Mish is she has too many other commitments, so would prefer not to run. So right now we have a candidate for chair and a candidate for vice chair. I think
This
still,
sounds like a complicated election.
yeah, it seems like it makes it easier. It's maybe the way elections in the country are going in general. Um, uh, so I think we didn't decide, or we just didn't discuss whether or not you can vote for somebody who is not formally nominated. Open to kind of discussion about that before we actually close this. But does anyone want to make any suggestions about that? In that case, I would say the nominations are closed. And we agreed that Cam has kindly volunteered to be the vote tabulator. So
So he's PricewaterhouseCoopers.
He's PricewaterhouseCoopers. So you should send your ballot to him and he'll tabulate things.
Sorry, Woody, to ask belatedly, but I thought your question was if we had any ideas on one part, but that nominations would remain open until end of fiscal year, but that is firmly today.
No, we agreed the last two meetings that we would accomplish this before the end of the fiscal year. The end of the fiscal year is June 30th. The I am arbitrarily saying since I haven't received any nominations and any additional nominations and we've been kind of soliciting nominations the last two meetings that we can kind of go ahead and vote.
Right, but only having learned today that we have one less vice and still only one chair, I'm just curious to open it up to the committee if we should wait to maybe have others be interested potentially and want to consider that, or I didn't realize today was going to be the end.
Well, I don't think we established a termination. I would say I've been surprised that there have been no further nominations, and we've been asking people for the last 2 weeks or the last 3 weeks, actually, to nominate others or themselves. So it feels like 3 weeks is a long enough time to give people.
Gotcha. I didn't realize it had been 3 weeks. I did miss a meeting potentially too. So, gotcha.
So send your ballots to Cam and he will tabulate. And then we can kind of go forward. So the other issues that I wanted to discuss were the liaison assignments. I've heard from a few people. Nobody has complained too vociferously. But I wanted to make sure everybody had seen their assignments and if there were any questions, comments, we could discuss. And then I thought it'd be useful to spend a few minutes discussing again just what the liaison's role is.
All right. Woody, I noticed you included Janet on the liaison role assignments, and that would be for FY 25-26, and her term ends.
Yeah, so we're starting FY 27 July 1. So those are the last fiscal years, FY 26. FY 27 is going forward.
I think you mean
There are-
26, don't you, Woody?
Yeah, there are
I thought what you
there are other
circulated was
columns.
26, so my apologies. I'll take a look at it right now. Maybe I overlooked.
At first, I thought that was the same thing, Sarah, but there are other columns to the right that you don't see when you open immediately.
I
The
missed
column,
that
the
too.
columns that you see, the columns that you see first are this year.
Yeah.
Does everybody see him now?
Mhm.
Affirmative. Thank you.
So I tried to change things around a little bit so that people got an opportunity to do something somewhat different, and also since my sense is that the regional schools are a pretty heavy load, heavy lift. I asked Kevin about that before he took it on. He seemed happy enough to do it. So, and I figured Kevin and Simone had done the citizens petitions last time, so they should get a break for a year. since those are possibly the more challenging liaison jobs to do. Even though the duration of the interaction is shorter, the intensity is higher. Any other
A limit to,
questions, comments?
I'm just curious about the citizens petitions. Is there a limit to how many times a citizen can petition, or do they just keep going on?
I'll defer that to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Oh,
There
okay,
is no limit,
okay.
but clearly after some of the experiences we're having, we maybe something we want to do,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but there is no limit.
I'm somewhat optimistic that Rick will.
Well, we do have the task force that
Yeah.
will start, so.
Right, and the task force should at least reassure him that his concerns are being addressed in a different forum.
Right.
And Nina, I think that now I have like a better understanding of the process. So if you are you the one
Yes.
taking care? So I'm happy to help you to understand, because I think that the best thing for you to know is like some key dates, and Felicia will keep us updated. When I spoke with her before the town meeting, we went through the process to make sure that we would not like hear in the last minute or not sure if it, the petition could go through, because there are some kind of like steps that everybody needs to take to make sure that it's a valid petition. So I think it will be an easier process the way that Felicia framed.
And
We did actually agree upon a policy as well on those steps, and we published them. So Nina, it might make a lot of sense for you to check those out.
whether it's on the town website.
I'm not exactly sure where they are. Do you have any sense of where they are, Woody?
I believe they are on the town website, but I know I've got them in a folder, and I can put them in our Google Drive. And excuse me, I'll send you the copy too.
Yeah, but so in addition to that, so when I went through this with Felicia, to the guidelines with Felicia, we identified some gaps that are not super clear in the process. So she said that she want to make sure that we close those gaps. It's nothing like significant, but for example, once it's approved by the select board, then Mona gets, I think it's Mona, right? Her name. So she gets the information, but we were not getting this information as far as we were able to track. So, we would know, but not officially receive the paperwork that actually can take us faster through the process.
Yes.
So Felicia was suggesting to make sure that we close those gaps and things happen with all the information together.
Great. Like I said, I appreciate the guidance when it rolls around.
Nina, I can work with you on that. I'm your second on that, so maybe we can work together. So
that perfect.
yeah. Okay.
So other questions, comments about the liaison assignments? I would say that we got generally positive comments from the different town departments, committees about the involvement of the liaisons. I think there are a few things that just to be aware of. One is that the planning board is going to be pretty active through the summer and fall. So who the people involved with the planning board should just be aware of the fact that there will be things to do leading up to first to the special town meeting in the fall, and then possibly there'll be a town meeting around the rail trail.
There's already a town meeting scheduled for, I think it's September 29th and
29th,
the
right.
first MBTA meeting, the first, and then there's another one for November. No, it's not the 29th. It's the yeah, September 29th. And then there's another one. I think it's, do you remember when the second one is, Cam? Is it November 17th? You're on mute. I think it's November 17th.
The second one for the MBTI, I have it.
Yes, I'll check that out on my calendar. One second.
Right. So I think it's the 17th.
September 29th, you already said. The
Right.
second, I think I emailed it to you.
Yeah, okay, I'll get it. It's in my calendar too.
Yeah, I definitely have it. I'll just go take me a minute to find it.
Right. And the second meeting, potentially we may be ready for the rail trail as well. So we're gonna consider doing a dual meeting if it comes to that. But right now the focus is just trying to get the MBTA done in one meeting. The big concern is it potentially may be really hard to get a quorum.
And we will, as a committee, be asked to take a position on, most likely on the statement of the planning board prior to the first special town meeting. So just be aware of the fact that there'll be something going on through the summer. I'm not sure exactly when Carol thinks they'll have something for us to consider, but probably by August or so.
Right. For some reason, I have August 17th in my mind.
Great. Other questions, comments about the liaison assignments?
Okay, I mean, I'm assuming that we'll be able to chat with the people who had the assignment last year and just get an update, like a sort of debriefed, so to know
Yeah,
what to
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah. And I'll send around the different contacts for the committees and the departments so that people have that as well. All right, great. So the last thing I had was consideration of the working groups. We talked at the last meeting about giving people some areas to focus on during the course of the year, apart from their liaison assignments. And we've already talked about forming a working group to look at the Blue Book, review it, hopefully revise it, and can make recommendations about the production process. I came up with a list of several other things that I think we could potentially consider as working groups. I'm not proposing that we do all of these. I think it'd be reasonable for us to do the Blue Book and maybe two others. But if people are interested, I'm happy to consider something more. So the ones I came up with were a working group on recruitment of new members and the onboarding process for new members of the Warrant Committee. A working group on continuing education of Warrant Committee members, considering topics that I want to read about, consider, identify conferences that might be helpful, that sort of thing. A working group on community outreach or communication as part of our mission to make recommendations to the town meeting about the different articles. One thing that I thought we didn't do in any organized way last year was have a process for preparing our the background for issuing our budget guidance letter. So I thought it might be useful to have a small group of people thinking through that. And then one final potential working group is just a group focusing on ways to make open hearing more effective, more useful to people, and potentially work on town meeting preparation. So those are the different topics that I came up with. I'm happy to entertain other ideas as well, and would appreciate any discussion of which of these you think might be useful to the committee, but might be things you'd want to work on, whatever.
Don't we also have to find someone to join the sidewalk working group?
The task
Uh,
force.
Yeah, the task force.
We do. We have one person who's already volunteered.
Okay.
So, but once that's gets a little more active, I'll send out an email asking if anyone else wants to volunteer.
Right, so we, the Board of Selectmen, we're trying to schedule our planning meetings. And once we schedule those, which hopefully we'll get done pretty soon, once we schedule those, then, you know, there'll be a warrant committee liaison. And we'll also let you know at that point who the liaisons are on the Board of Selectmen and when some of these task forces are going to be initiated. You know, I would also suggest that maybe it's not a task force, Woody, but maybe it's just a working group of the Board of Selectmen and the Warrant Committee to meet with Chris prior to the budget guideline letter going out and
Yep.
just talk to him a little bit about timelines and budgets and maybe sort of have a debrief on things we could do better, because I think the Warrant Committee is looking for more support from the townhouse. So I just want to make sure that they're aware of deadlines so that, you know, Chris needs to get a printer in place. So let's kind of work backwards. Maybe the small group can work backwards from the day the blue book has to go out and figure out all the things that need to happen prior to that.
Yep, that'd be useful.
Robin, I might add to that earlier this week I attended a webinar put on by the MMA on financial planning.
Okay.
And one of the suggestions they had was to come up with a calendar, a warrant committee calendar of
That's an
what's going to be
excellent
done by
idea.
when,
Right.
and put it right through to the town meeting, so that we've got milestones that we know we've got to meet as well.
Right.
And I think that's a good idea. They have a template on their site you could pull down if you were
Okay.
interested in doing that, Woody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it would be great to coordinate with Chris, because then he could also make sure that the the town team meets the deadlines, and so that
Right.
they also know, you know, what and when things need to get done. Because I get the impression everybody just assumes everybody knows and we don't. And you know,
Yeah.
Cam, it may be a good idea just to have this, maybe that's one of our goals, just a master calendar that,
Right. Right.
you know,
Agreed.
because
And there are lots of templates on that
somehow,
MMA site that will
right,
help us with that stuff
There
too.
are.
right, right. I mean, I just always feel as though the open hearing just creeps up on you, even though everybody knows when it is.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, one of the things we could do is take that calendar to this joint working group of the Warrant Committee and Selectmen and say, okay, this is the draft. What are the issues with it,
Right.
and can we coordinate it, or we forward it to everybody 2 weeks in advance so they've got an opportunity to consider the implications, and
Right.
so that when we head into that meeting, we can decide, is this a good calendar or not?
Right, good idea. See, we're full of good ideas.
Yeah, I'll shut up now because it's not my meeting.
And Woody wanted to make it
Not,
short.
not only that, when you make a suggestion like that, you get drafted automatically to work on it.
Right.
Good one.
So other comments, questions about the working group proposal?
Woody, I mentioned to you, I thought that I mean, I think the proposal's great for a long term, and certainly Blue Book's a priority. And also, I don't know whether this is a working group or just a way to make a liaison for the committee, and for the liaisons. I mean, a committee, someone that's sort of organizing the liaisons and making sure they know that they're all touching base before. That I just thought that might be helpful.
Yep. Yep.
Especially for the new members.
Yeah. That could really just be a point person, but might be a role to consider.
So how do we decide which of these we want to do? It feels like the Blue Book is one that we've already decided as a committee warrants attention. Others that what should be the process about going through the others?
I mean, I think if I have to prioritize, I would go definitely with the Blue Book and the communication community outreach. I think that the communication and community outreach helps anyways with recruiting new members also. So I not necessarily see them completely separated, like we can leverage the activities for that matter. And I think even the open hearing effectiveness, as you were describing, can kind of like fit into that. If we have the task force with the select board and the warrant committee, I think many of those things will come up and be addressed anyways. So, and I think that then the third, I would say that the continuous education of the warrant committee would be very helpful in my perception. I'm just trying to kind of like clump them in less work groups and.
Yep.
Woody, I guess from my perspective, if I understood the last meeting, we're seeing the ultimate goal or finishing point for the committee each year is to review and make informed recommendation on articles at town meeting, right? And the beginning, front end of that process is the budget guidance, right? And the letter that goes out. And
Correct.
trying to be tight enough that we feel like we will get a response that will be meaningful enough to make an informed recommendation. So I would say beyond the Blue Book, the second one in my mind would be making sure you have that consensus around the budget guidance, and then try to be a little bit more disciplined and systematic in terms of what we get from the various units in order to truly feel comfortable that we've been informed in terms of how they run the shop and what are the objectives they're trying to achieve, how do they measure their performance, as opposed to I need 3% next year or 2% or whatever the number is on their budget.
Good. Other thoughts?
In that group, if we're in Simone's thought, if you're trying to conflate and have that be a year-long group, then they would naturally work with the education of the warrant committee members, because once they've done the budget guidance letter, they would know what we need to know to consider. Those sort of go hand in hand, it seems to me.
So I think my bias is that everybody on the committee ought to be involved in one working group. There is there's a potential advantage to having the working group small, both for kind of the way the group functions, but also if we stay below our quorum numbers, we don't have to worry about posting agendas and that sort of thing. So feels as though you know, 4 people should be involved in the different groups, and that just about everybody on the committee should be involved in at least one working group. And that we could allow people, for the most part, to choose unless we ended up with everybody migrating to one or two of the groups. That makes sense to people?
I guess the only other thing I'd add, Woody, keying off of Robin's comment earlier, if we are going to have these committees and have the 3 or 4 people, is there a possibility to have some type of liaison from whoever the responsible town official is to make sure we stay within the guardrails, and they kind of help in terms of making sure we're not just going off on some tangent and isn't going to be helpful to them?
Yeah, I think it would make sense for the different working groups to involve people outside of the Warrant Committee. For example, it would be hard to do a revision of the Blue Book without having Chris intimately involved and
Right.
potentially others. You know, same with you know, talking about the guidance letter that, you know, Michael and Chris should presumably be involved in that discussion. So I think the nucleus ought to be members of the Warrant Committee, but that we ought to draw in particularly staff members who are potentially both affected by this and are also going to be resources for it.
Right, and I'd also say whoever the Board of Selectmen liaison is should be part of that group as well.
Right, right. Other comments, questions? All right, so send your ballots to Cam. We'll say that these liaison assignments are firm for the coming year, and we'll recommend that people assuming new liaison responsibilities should make an effort to contact the outgoing liaison to just get some insights into what the process was like, what they found helpful and unhelpful.
It's a good idea.
We'll move forward with the working groups, and there is one thing that we did last year that I would like to see continue, and that is that we had a somewhat informal kind of working group with Sherburne Advisory and the Regional School Committee, and the school administration, and that was kind of pushed that as a response in a way to the way Sherburne reacted to the rebudgeting around their air handlers. But I don't think you can point to anything that we actually accomplished as a group, but it certainly improved communication among the different groups. I think we both did better with Sherburne, and I have to feel that it actually eased some of the kind of discussion around the turf field. So I would like to see that continue. So maybe look for one or two people who might want to be involved in that. And I'll reach out to, I believe Dan is remaining as chair of the Sherburne Advisory. And do we have it? We don't have a chair yet for the Regional School Committee going forward, right?
It alternates, so I don't know who the chair was last time.
It was Mark
Mark.
Healy, right? So it will
So
be
it will be somebody
someone
in
from Sherburne.
right?
So I think we actually had the chair and vice chair both come to these meetings, as well as the people from capital budget at in Sherburne and Dover. So it was a moderate sized group, but I think the discussion actually still was fairly fruitful. So I'm going to
Might
add
make
that.
sense to include the liaison person as well.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that might be a useful way to structure it. So if no other business, I'm happy to adjourn.
Woody, can I ask a question about the ballot counting? Is there a time when the ballots must be in? Do I
So I'll
follow up
send
with
out an
people?
email. I'll send out an email today or tomorrow and ask people to get their ballots in within the next week.
Okay. So that means we'll close the ballots next Wednesday evening.
Next
Is that
Wednesday.
it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn
No moved.
and a second?
Second.
Second.
Great. Marty,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yeah.
Simone,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Great. All right. So the next meeting will be the 25th, and I'll make sure you get the materials around the reserve fund transfers a few days in advance. All right. Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Woody.
Thanks.
Thanks.